I've been researching this for a little bit. There's a podcast that I listen to that my therapist actually recommended. But on one of the four of the episodes, they're talking about codependency,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the ways that codependency can show up is in people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's avoidance. It can be an avoidance of disappointing people.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I'm so afraid of disappointing people, I'm looking to make sure I can't be authentic. And you mentioned, well, that's one of the things that you mentioned, is it's almost like living in this false self.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't be who I am. I can't say how I really feel. Maybe I can't even identify how I really feel. Essentially, like I'm lying to myself and other people.
Right.
Right? Because I'm trying to avoid this feeling, or the consequences that may come from this feeling.
Right. Because you want to live up to the expectation that somebody else has of you.
Yeah.
Or you just want to
sure.
see people happy. Like it comes down to where, like, sometimes I have to have a conversation with clients about disappointment and, like, say, is disappointment allowed? Like, are you allowed to experience it, and are others allowed to experience it? Because going out of your way to avoid it is essentially saying, like, this is not an allowable experience. And
That's good.
also, like, over exaggerating, like, what happens after you get disappointed. Like, okay, you're disappointed, and then what? Like, that's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
It's not so devastating that you can't overcome it. But so many people treat it like that. Like, this is just not allowed to happen in my life or the lives of others. And so, it can just set you on this pattern of behavior, to where you don't even know who you are anymore. Like, all you're doing is showing up in a way that you think other people expect you to, because you just don't want to let them down, or you just don't want them to be disappointed in you.
Yeah. I feel like we need to go back for a moment, and like this is that preacher me coming out. We need to sit with that.
Okay.
Is it allowed?
Yes.
Like, that's good, right? Yeah. Like, have you asked yourself, like, is this, am I allowed to be disappointed? Are they allowed to be disappointed? Mm-hmm. Because we might say yes, but our behaviors are saying no.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Right? Because we're doing everything we can do to prevent disappointment. Mm-hmm. At any cost. In fact, sometimes it can turn you into an enabler.
Yeah, because you're to that point of the codependency piece, right, where you're enabling behavior.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and that has to be the first question, right? Sitting with the idea that this is an allowable experience, and even a welcomed experience, for that matter, which is really hard to do, because, I mean, who really wants to welcome disappointment? Who wants to be disappointed? I mean, like, just sign me up. Right. But it doesn't matter if you want to or not. It's going to come to you, whether you invite it or not. So to make it your mission to go out of your way to avoid disappointment is just a futile mission, as they say. So kind of like one of the first steps to getting better, I think, is learning to accept disappointment as a part of life. Like, it is going to come to you, but then also understanding that you get through it. Like, it doesn't last forever, right? It comes and then it goes, but you can stay stuck in it for longer than you intended to, if you don't have the skills to kind of learn how to cope with it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I'm sitting here thinking about just, as a note to parents too. Oftentimes we don't want our kids to struggle and be disappointed, and that can cause a lot of anger and resentment towards people on behalf of our kids, or a lot of stress on parents, because we trying to, put our kids in this bubble away from feeling those emotions, but especially disappointment. And like you said, it's oftentimes like it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
Even if it shows up in the other parent disappointing the child, or you disappointing the child,
right.
Which can really lead to, some really entitled children if we don't let them experience this feeling.
Yeah.
They don't know how to cope.
Exactly.
They grow up to be adults that don't know how to cope.
Yep.
So what are some?
Well,
so what are Yeah, go ahead.
We want to get into how to cope, but I want to address that point you made about parents and kids real
Okay.
quick, because when you said, this reminds me of something, I was just having a conversation with someone about when you said parents wanting to, um, in a sense, protect their children from disappointment.
Yeah.
I had to ask somebody about this when they were doing it, not for their children, but for their partner, and trying to kind of help them through things. And I said, what you may call protection is actually enabling. And you mentioned enabling earlier, because you are enabling them to continue not to do something for themselves, right? Or be able to kind of stand
Yeah.
up and learn how to deal with problems as they come up. And so being
Yeah.
of that mind frame of like allowing them to see like disappointment is going to happen. And there was to be this show my kids would watch when they were little, and I liked it too. It was called Yo Gabba Gabba. And one of the songs on
Mm-hmm.
there was like, you can't always get what you want. Like that was the song they were singing. So I would sing it to the kids, and we would listen to the CD and everything. And it's like, it's true. You can't always get what you want. And so
Yeah.
understanding that is where you kind of can get into a place of starting to accept disappointment in your life, because you can't always get what you want. And so, yeah, I recommend check out that Yo Gabba Gabba. They had some bops back in the day.